The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Welcome to the Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. The Suns are down 0-3, right where I expected them to be. My name is Mike, here with Sam. How's it going?
Oh, we're smiling through the pain. Life is just a series of crushing moments. Seems like we both had quite a day. I just moved today, and in the rain. And then got to also watch my basketball team go down 0-3 just as soon as that finished. So, tough shout here.
In some ways, the early games are nice because then it's like I still got the rest of the day. But then when you get embarrassed, it's like, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? Just be sad. But yeah, 121-109 final score after I think 107-120. Basically identical games for the last two games in some ways. But the Suns lost this one after some performances that, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to look at the box score in this one. In the last podcast, we asked, will there ever be a game where Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green both score well in the same game? Well, we got that one.
Yeah, we did.
And then Devin Booker didn't. It's like maybe the question should have been, will all three of them ever score well in the same game? And, that did not happen. But Brooks and Green, a pretty good game overall. But, SGA, who they kind of let do what he wanted a little bit, just kind of did too much for this game. And, that was kind of the story.
Yeah, SGA hadn't really gotten going in this series so far. And that's why it's, funny that the Thunder kind of had that commanding 2-0 lead anyway. And then this was the game where the levee broke. I mean, he had 42 points on 15 of 18 shooting, also got to the free throw line 12 times. The Suns just so frustrating in the sense that, I really thought individually a lot of players played well today. To your point, Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks both had good shot-making games, got a lot more out of Colin Gillespie in this game in terms of like hustle, making rebounding plays, got a lot more out of Oso Ighodaro scoring in the paint. Grayson Allen came back, didn't play well, but like at least he was on the floor. So there were guys who individually played well, and yet they're still just so small. They're still so small, and they still choose to be small. Rasheer Fleming did not play again in Game 3. That is not the main reason that they lost, but everyone's talking about it, and I think people are right to talk about it because it's a conscious choice that the Suns continue to play this small, and made choices in Jordan Knott's case like playing Haywood Highsmith at center and small ball center, right? And, I think if you were going to give Shai Gilgeous-Alexander those lineups against him, he was always going to get going eventually. He's just too talented not to. 42 points on 18 shots is insane, though. That's like next level efficiency. And the other big thing to talk about here that I want to talk maybe at extended length is Devin Booker, right? But really seeing the difference in SGA versus as their number one guy versus Devin Booker as our number one guy.
Yeah,
it was never
versus
more
anyone.
Clear. Yeah, it was never more clear though.
In this game,
than
obvious.
In this game.
Yeah, I agree. The Suns' strategy in this game: no Jalen Williams, right? So they understood no Jalen Williams going into this game. The Thunder started AJ Mitchell, which is what we expected going into this game. Both that J. Will would miss and that AJ would start. The Suns kind of made the decision to not send two guys at SGA. There's no good decision against this team, as we know. But without the second guy that can really hurt you, just by himself, I think the idea was let's shut them down. Let's not give them any easy shots when SGA does pass the ball, and let's see if we could force him into difficult shots on switches and just not send two guys at him overall. And, he does what he does. He gets to 30 points regardless of how you're going to guard him. That's usually what he does in the regular season or in the playoffs. But in this game, they had two too many opportunities for him where he only took 18 shots, just as you said, was 15 for 18 in those shots because he was just shooting over mostly Colin Gillespie, but also they gave him 12 free throws. The Suns did. I'm not going to blame the refs for that when the Suns were fouling. And, he had 12 free throws, and that's how he got to 42 points. And even with that strategy, he still had 8 assists. And he just was really awesome in this game and looks like the best player in the NBA, which he is, in my opinion. So really tough. I don't know. What did you think of that strategy? I'll say this from my perspective. I understood it and I expected it. And I kind of thought they maybe would have done that earlier in the series just to give him one defender and say, it's fine. He's going to go off. He's going to score no matter what. But can we shut down everyone else? But what did you think about it in this game? I
mean, I don't think it's crazy. AJ Mitchell is like one of the biggest wild cards on the Thunder in that he doesn't have the playoff experience that everyone else on that team has, right? So he had 15 points in this game, but on 20 shots. He was not efficient at all. Chet is a wild card. He just doesn't shoot the ball that much. So, Lou Dort is Lou Dort. Hartenstein is Hartenstein. I think it makes sense if you have the personnel to where if the first guy gets beat, you still have a team defensive scheme that can make life difficult for recovering in the gaps. And again, like part of it is that maybe no matter who they played, the Suns don't have that personnel, but also to echo what I said opening up the episode, like they are choosing to play lineups with Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and Haywood Highsmith all together, right? Yeah. It's a conscious choice. And I don't know. I mean, I think with the right personnel, what you're talking about, just playing SGA straight up could work. And for the Suns, just wasn't really possible. But also, they didn't try that hard to change anything up.
It's like, if you get 6 threes out of Caruso and Dort combined, that's really tough, like for the Suns, because a lot of your strategy will be if we do help, we help off of those guys. And if they hit threes, that's really tough. And for the Suns, if you shoot 41 threes, but you only make 13, that's really tough. Like a lot of these games will come down to if the Suns win, it's probably a variance game because this team is significantly better than the Suns. So they need the variances to go in their favor, and that is 3-point shooting. Now, although OKC shot 32% as well, the Suns shot a lot more, 4 more, and they just made less. In some ways, they need Dort to go 1 for 5 instead of 3 for 7. They need Caruso to go 1 for 5 instead of 3 for 6. And they need somebody like Royce O'Neal to hit 5 or 6 threes. They need somebody like Colin Gillespie to, let's say, hit more than 1 3 because he hasn't done that in a while. And then Grayson Allen, who was in there launching and does not look right yet. And I'm glad to see him, by the way. I still think he was helpful in this game, even though he's minus 16
and 17 minutes. But I agree that it was nice to have someone. I mean, Grayson came out there, they ran a few plays for him, and he just instantly shot like 3 threes in 3 minutes. So that was at least good to see someone who was willing to launch them up. But you know what?
Not scared. Yeah,
the formula,
less scared than Booker.
We'll get there in a minute. The formula is half efficiency and half volume, right? So like there's the variance aspect of we need to shoot a better percentage than them, and they weren't able to do that. But they took fewer shots than the Thunder at the end of the day. Not by a ton. Mm-hmm. It was 91 to 87, but they took fewer shots than the Thunder. And this team, the Suns, that have made their identity out of we're going to pressure the ball, we're going to get steals, we're going to turn you over and score in the fast break all season long. In Game 3, a do-or-die moment, they had 2 steals as a team. The Suns can't win if they get 2 steals. Again, I would say that was half OKC's overwhelmingly more talented than us. And again, half, you're not playing the right guys if you want to get that event creation because the guys you are playing don't do as much of that.
Yeah, it's, I guess you're right. I mean, I don't know how much of these other guys that they're not playing are going to get a ton of steals, but maybe 1 or 2 that could have assisted them in this game.
Every Suns fan knows that Rasheer Fleming would average a 5x5 in this series if only he played a single quarter.
That's true. They definitely know that. The Suns did a relatively good job securing the ball on their end in this game too, in that they had 11 turnovers, but against the Thunder, that's pretty good, like to only have 11 turnovers, but then they only forced 7 on the other side of that. And you can't to secure the ball relatively well on one end. The most anyone had was 3 by Dylan Brooks, who I still think was very good in this game. that's great to be able to not turn it over against them that much. Someone like Jalen Green, I thought in particular, did a much better job than any other game, with his handle and making the right reads. And Devin Booker, too, did not turn it over as much as he has been. But yeah, you have to win one of these battles. And in that one, they didn't either. And yeah, it's really take more shots, hit more threes. I know it's maybe boring analysis at this point, but that's kind of what it's going to take to beat this team. And yeah, they didn't do it in this game. They did technically make more threes, but that was not enough to overcome what the Thunder were doing.
So for the people who are listening to this, I appreciate anyone who still listens after. And, I think it's one thing when you're listening after 0-1 or 0-2, but 0-3, you're truly a sicko. I think the gloves come off after 0-3 in a way that, to an extent, we're not talking about this series anymore. I mean, we can spend a few minutes talking about what they could do in Game 4, but we all know that they're now facing a challenge that has never been overcome. Maybe we could have a fun debate about who do you think is more likely to come back from 3-0 between us or the Houston Rockets, because that's one of the only things that's keeping me going in the playoffs this year is hate watching on the Rockets, who are in the same exact position as us. But I think it's fair for the conversation to take a more existential, more large-scale macro turn after you go down 3-0. And not to say we should entirely talk about the offseason from here on out, but let's talk about Devin Booker, right? Mm-hmm. So this has been a really frustrating series for Devin Booker. I think it's been a frustrating series personally. If I were Devin Booker, I would feel frustrated. And it has also been a frustrating series for any fans of Devin Booker to watch Devin Booker, right? Because Game 2, you have all of the official stuff. It basically goes viral. I'm sure you were seeing it everywhere. I was seeing it absolutely everywhere on every social media feed. There is this absolute hatred, I think, of Oklahoma City that, more so than it being in support of Devin Booker or the Suns,
yes,
it brought basketball fans together, the ability to hate against OKC, which is fine with me. I just, I don't want us to have the wrong ideas about why that moment happened.
Right.
But Booker absolutely got screwed in Game 2 with a bunch of calls out the officials by name, gets fined $35,000. So I get it. It's a frustrating moment for him. Yeah, comes back in Game 3.
Pocket change for him, but yeah.
Yeah, pocket change, but yeah. Comes back in Game 3, and in this game, another grievance, legitimate grievance in that, gets tripped by Lou Dort about halfway through this game, has to leave, go to the locker room, checked out for a couple minutes, his ankle. And then miraculously comes back. I thought maybe the season was over right there. He comes back, battles through it, plays through it.
It may have been anyway. He didn't quite look like himself after that.
He certainly didn't look like himself, but he certainly hasn't looked like himself all series.
Yeah, I agree.
And here's where we're at with Devin Booker now. Maybe he was injured for half of this game. Maybe that is true. But another game where he played 39 minutes. He scored 16 points on 16 shots. It was yet another game where he finished not second, but third in field goal attempts on his own team behind Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been one thing for Devin Booker to have these types of games in the KD Beal era of the team, right? Where there was very much a time for him to kind of sink into the shadows a little bit and just be the happy-go-lucky star who's willing to take a back seat in these moments. We're now facing a situation where, let me pull up his game log real quick. In this series, Devin Booker is supposed to be a superstar and let's remind everyone, is getting paid like one of the utmost, tier 1 superstars in the NBA. He signed under contract for 4 more years with the Suns and is going to be making upwards of $60 million pretty soon.
Yeah.
And in these 3
when
games...
When he's older, too.
When he's even older than he is now.
Yeah.
And in these 3 games against Oklahoma City has taken 17, 14, and 16 shots, playing close to 40 minutes in every game. So he's a very good player. He's a very good teammate. I know that, he would just tell you he's always trying to make the right play and there's a time to make the right play and trust your teammates and whatever. But he doesn't look like the same guy at the moment. And, you
It's
know,
true.
he certainly doesn't look like the guy who was the number one scoring option on a championship team in 2021. And, you know, now that we're kind of down 0-3, I think we can open up the conversation about where the alarm bells should be for this. Because to me, it's the number one reason that the Suns haven't been – there are many, many reasons, but it's the number one reason the Suns haven't been able to persevere for a single game against Oklahoma City is that Devin Booker hasn't had a game where he scores 30 points and has 6 assists, right? And so, you know, if that's going to be the guy who's taking up 50% of your salary cap, it's cause for concern.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 Show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack. But people don't understand, when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
If you care about coffee and how it's made, check out Alchemy Roast. They roast in small batches and source their beans responsibly, focusing on flavor instead of mass production. The result is coffee that's balanced, well-developed, and easy to drink, whether you brew at home every day or just want something better than grocery store coffee. You can order online at alchemyroaster.com, and if you use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. Go now to alchemyroaster.com, my favorite coffee, and use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout. Get 10% off, support a local Phoenix business, and get the best coffee you can buy. I think there's a couple places to go with the Devin Booker conversation, because you're talking about it like if he talked about it, maybe he would say that he's trying to make the best play, right? And get guys open shots. But like the best play used to be him shooting most of the time. And if it's not that, that's a problem. And if it is that and he's not taking those shots, that's a problem as well. A different problem, but it's still a problem, and it's a problem that needs to be fixed. But the other place that this conversation can go is into the offseason. Now, we don't have to have that conversation yet. We have time. We still do 2 podcasts a week through the offseason, so we got to have topics to talk about.
One Devin
once
Booker
the season
trade
ends.
to all other 29 teams. That's coming in the offseason. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right, the
We're not
Patreon
doing that.
podcast. Each of us do a different trade every week. But it is one of those things where you look at this team and you look at the future of this team and you look at the way Devin Booker's playing right now, and it forces you to have a serious sort of conversation with yourself at the very least, or for me, a serious conversation with Sam Cooper in New York. So it's gonna be the type of thing that we have to have on this conversation.
Yeah,
But in the short term, right? Because we're gonna have to have that conversation in the offseason and see what's out there, what's available, and talk about what is the best for the future of the Phoenix Suns. I can tell you what Matt Ishbia thinks, and I don't think he's trading anyone like that anytime soon. But we have to have that conversation at some point, because if he's not going to be someone who's willing to play like he makes $75 million a year, I don't know how you can justify paying him that way. But in the short term, what can he do to be better now? Is it always just forcing up a bunch of shots? Not necessarily. Like, to me, part of the problem is it doesn't look like he's getting to his spots fast enough to force those shots up. So in some ways, when I say it's 2 different conversations about whether or not he's turning down looks or he's not getting those looks and they're not there for him right now. Because if he's not getting them and they're not there for him, and if that's a problem that's going to persist throughout the rest of his career, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe it's just a problem with how he is physically right now. It's tough for us to know. That's a huge problem. And to me, it looks more like that. Like, it looks like he's not able to get to those spots the way that he normally is, or when he gets to them, to rise up in the way that we anticipate that he's done. And truthfully, the way he did for a while there in March and April. And, that's to me, when we look at game 4, which may be the last game of the series, maybe they win one and it's a gentleman's sweep or whatever. But when we look at game 4, what can he do to be better in game 4? Is it forcing up more shots? I'm not entirely convinced that's the best for the team right now. Maybe it's the best for the fan base.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, forcing, it depends on your definition of forcing, because there were open shots on the perimeter tonight where he would just choose to pass to the next guy.
And yeah, those are often threes, right?
Yeah, and I understand why maybe he doesn't have a ton of confidence in his three right now. But
do you? I don't.
I do. You're in the fucking 3-point contest at All-Star Weekends, and you make $60 million a year. Suck it up and take the open three. I'm not talking about him necessarily.
They got to put a Sprite logo on the court for him, apparently.
I'm not talking about him necessarily taking 30 shots, but I think 16 is a failure. And allowing Dillon Brooks to take more shots than you, because Dillon is always going to be willing to do it, and he had a great shot-making game again tonight. But again, that is the game plan for OKC, and it's been the game plan for every good team we play this season. So it just frustrates me that Booker seems so willing to just be like, oh yeah, I'm seeing the doubles. They want to take me out of the game. I'll take myself out of the game. That's fine. And just defer. Just defer to the next guy.
I agree. I do think this team, the OKC defense, is probably particularly frustrating for him in the way that where they leave you open is where he doesn't want to shoot, which is pull-up threes. And he has opportunities to shoot those, and he clearly doesn't want to do it. And in some ways, I'm just like, take 10. I don't care. Take 10. Let's see it. Let's see you take 10 3-pointers in a game. Let's see what happens.
I don't think he's ever going to do it. I
don't think so either.
Not 10
maybe
pull-up 3-pointers like that.
Not in the postseason, especially. And truthfully, maybe he only makes 2 of those if he does it anyway, and that would be just as frustrating. But you know at least we'd see him try.
Nobody has taken those for us in that series. Really, I mean, we are still getting up a good amount of 3-point shots, but because Grayson Allen, who takes a decent amount of those shots, hasn't been healthy this series, Colin Gillespie hasn't been taking that shot really, and hasn't been making it when he does. Mm-hmm. And then for like Dillon Brooks, like he actually is making threes off the dribble, but they tend to be step back threes. They're not really pull-ups in the same way. He just kinda,
Grayson's the guy who launches them, and
right,
he
gets
just played
them.
17 minutes for the first time today. Yeah,
he gets them in a different way. Look, for Book in the future, I don't think Booker is 29 years old. I don't think we're actually at risk for him being, like I don't know. There's some Bradley Beal comparisons being thrown around. I don't think he's Bradley Beal. I think that's disrespectful to Book. He might not be, I don't know. I don't want to throw other names out there, but he's not Bradley Beal.
Donovan Mitchell? Is that what you're going to say?
Who?
Donovan Mitchell?
I wasn't even thinking of Donovan Mitchell, but it doesn't matter. Ironically, I think he may have extended his career by a few years by becoming a much better grifter this year.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny. Right.
Where truthfully, in a way that Book used to just not get calls, now he knows how to work the contact and his physicality to just get to the free throw line 2 or 3 more times a game. Mm-hmm. And that might be enough to sustain his offense for a while, but will it be enough to sustain his offense forever if he just never has a pull-up 3-point shot again?
Yeah.
This
is why
the shot making is not where it was 3 or 4 years ago. The shot making is not where it was. I mean, oh my God, the 2023 playoffs, or was it 2023? Where they made the second round and lost to Denver.
Yes.
Right?
First year with KD.
The first year with KD, and who Booker was in that playoffs, consistently shooting over 20 times a game.
Yeah,
I'm not looking at the same player.
No, it's not even close. And he had a lot more room, admittedly, and playing against much worse defenses, of course.
True.
But it is different to see him there. I want to look. How many shots do you think he shot in those games? I'm actually kind of curious to see that now. Going forward,
22 a game.
There it is. Okay.
22 a game in the 23 playoffs on a team with Kevin Durant.
And in the Denver series, 20.5. So yeah, definitely doing more, and that makes a difference. Like just a few shots a game makes a big difference for a team, especially if you're more efficient, which he clearly wasn't in this game.
And you know what's crazy?
Like
in
after
that series,
after the injury, missed like 6 shots too. So
only averaged exactly what I was just talking about. Only averaged 6 free throw attempts per game in the playoffs in 2023, and right now he's at 8.5 in this series.
Yeah.
So he's getting to the line more, but he's taking way fewer actual jump shots.
Mm-hmm. I really thought this would be a game where he had like 15 free throws after his complaining in the last one, and it was not. He only took 2 in this game, but was not getting to the spots to get fouled anyway. But what I mean about the way the defense covers him is when he starts driving to that mid-range area, that's when their defense swarms. That's when they really cover him. And it's not just making those mid-range shots difficult, especially if he can't elevate the way I think he's not elevating the way I expect him to. But also, if you get trapped in that area and try to pass, that's when they force turnovers out of you. So it really is taking away everything that he's good at in some ways because he can't hit threes right now. And he doesn't seem to have the burst to get to the rim right now. And, like whether or not that's a temporary or a permanent problem, I think is very concerning. And this is what's frustrating, by the way, about the conversation about size. Because the size thing doesn't fix what Booker's problem is. And Booker's problem, I think, is one of the bigger problems for the Suns. It's the reason I think they lost so many games in the clutch in April and the end of March. And I think it's the reason why they're struggling in the postseason. Don't get me wrong. Him playing really well doesn't mean they're it's a 2-1 series or a 1-2 series. Even like, I'm not saying that would be the biggest difference maker. But I do think it's a problem that is not quite solvable by just putting taller players on the floor. Maybe you do get help on the rebounds. Maybe you do get help other ways, and you lose in different ways. Yeah. But I do think you probably still lose because what you expect out of somebody who has the responsibility that Devin Booker has for this team is more, and they're not getting more. And I think that's the biggest problem here, and I'm not sure that it's solvable in this particular series.
There's 2 big problems for the Suns right now that basically everyone in the fan base has their fingers on, but maybe is not verbalizing all in the same way. But, the size thing is, like, if that's a big priority in the offseason to get more size and to kind of clear up this logjam of wings who I think are good players, are veterans, part of Jordan Knott's gerontocracy, I would say. Clear up a little bit of those minutes for younger players with more athleticism to give you more size, more defensive versatility, whatever. That might make them a better team. It probably doesn't make them a great team. Probably the only way, and this is the other problem with the Suns that you're talking about, probably the only way for the Suns to actually be a great team again, top 4 seed in the Western Conference, is to somehow acquire or develop another player who is as good or better than current Devin Booker.
Of course.
So,
and it was true with Chris Paul joining the team. It was true with KD joining the team.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that there are about 5 players, right, that can do it themselves, a lot themselves. LeBron can do it sometimes now, but can't do it every day. But you got Luka, who might be able to get you to 50 wins. You got Jokic, you got SGA. I mean, honestly, who else is there now? Ant maybe, but Ant kind of has like the perfect circumstances with his team, so I'm not convinced that he could do it by himself. Every one of those other guys need.
What were the names you said?
Luka, SGA, and Jokic.
Jokic, Marcus Smart.
Apparently. Jordan Goodwin.
Luka, SGA, Jokic, you're not going to put on.
Giannis maybe, but like he doesn't play enough. So
no,
that's
and
I'm
not putting anyone in the East in that conversation. I mean, Cade, I wouldn't put Cade there.
No, and like the Celtics, I think are a great example of a team that's so well
put there.
Yeah, they're so well put together that it's hard to even test that theory. Maybe you put Tatum on, the Wizards or something, and maybe they get 45 wins in the East. But I don't know. Like I'm not fully convinced of that either. There's
and I
only
wouldn't put Brunson
a few guys
there either, obviously.
And Booker at the level he's playing is lower than those guys that we're even mentioning. Like he's not on Ant's level so far this season. He's not on what we know Tatum's level to be when Tatum is healthy. I think maybe Jaylen Brown, he's probably closer to what Jaylen Brown is, but Jaylen Brown put him on the perfect team with the perfect circumstances the way he had in Boston this year. Yeah, you could win more games. And that's true of Booker. And, if you want to build a title around that, that's what you have to look at going forward. But that, to be frank, has always been the case with him in his career. Even when he plays better than this, you need a better circumstance around him. And there's a case to be made, by the way, that better circumstance is why he plays better. Like all of it working together helps feed into him playing well too.
Even in 2021 in the finals, right? That was a version of Devin Booker that I think we were much more confident in than the version that we're seeing right now. And yet, even at the time, it was like, this helpless train wreck that you're watching in slow motion of the Suns having to somehow win these games against Giannis. And then, of course, the 50-point closeout game comes from Giannis. But just knowing you're up against a player who is better. You're just up against one of those 5 players at that time. And I guess Giannis probably still is one of those 5 players, but especially at the time. So, yeah, Booker has always been an excellent player. I don't like having the superstar conversation because it's just such an arbitrary term. Like, what really is a superstar? Some people would say that if you're an all-star, you're a superstar, basically. Like, there are 20 of them. Other people would say there are 5 of them. And I don't really know how we're supposed to draw a line in the sand there and decide who is and who isn't. But, Booker has never really been in the All-NBA first-team conversation. Did he make one of those? Or has he never made one of those?
Yes, he did.
He did? Okay. He made one the 64-win season, maybe? Was that it?
I think it was that season.
But he's always been on the outskirts of that conversation, right? Like, he's always been at best.
A perfect season has to come for it to happen, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
by the way,
it's always going to be difficult.
Wemby. I just feel like I should put him on the list of guys. He's a defense unto himself, and maybe it's early to crown him as one of those 5-6 guys, but kind of feels like Wemby is one of those guys.
And dude, the game that Castle and Harper just had yesterday, I mean, that team's going to be, as we talk about, like, how do you build sustainably and try to challenge not just the OKCs, but San Antonio in the future? Like, if we're going to be, hopefully they're better than the 8th seed next year, right? That's the goal, because if they're the 8th seed next year, that's probably the team they're playing in the first round. So
it is crazy.
It could be anyone, I guess.
It's crazy how good Harper is right away.
Yeah.
He just looks awesome already. And yeah, that's a rookie.
But to take the conversation off Booker a little bit, right? There is the Booker aspect of it, which, everyone's going to be like, feel free to argue about it and say where you think he currently is. But, then there's also Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks and Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen and all of these guys who are good players. They're all good players. Like, I think they've all proven in their own way that they can contribute to a good team, at least. Maybe not a great team. But their skill sets together are just redundant. Like, they just don't make sense. There's either too many guys dribbling the air out of the ball, just like on the ball, not getting on and off it. That's kind of more the Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks side of things. And then between Grayson Allen and Royce, you have 2 really good shooters who don't defend. So I just don't see a version of the Suns, like Devin Booker conversation or not. I don't see a version of the Suns next year that can bring back those exact 4 players and continue to play those exact 4 players like 90% of your wing rotation minutes. It just cannot be the same wing rotation.
Yeah. I think they know that too. And look, as much as everyone wants to see Rasheer Fleming, everything that we have heard from the Suns, they believe in Rasheer Fleming. They believe in him as the future of like this wing rotation. He's going to be more part of the team next year than he is this year. And so they're clearly going to make some room for him somehow, as long as they can find the proper trades. But they know, they just don't have the guys right now, and they have to figure out a way to make the changes next year. And look, we're going to have a lot of conversations about that as we talk about this team going forward. We picked a good time, I think, to have this kind of Devin Booker conversation. I think some people will still continue to be sensitive to it, and some people will be on the opposite side of that, and they just want you to jerk off their rage boners. But I think very few people will listen to this podcast anyway. So either way, I think we're going to get away with it in an interesting way after this one posts. But look, there are other things to talk about going into Game 4. I don't really we kind of understand the recipe to beat this team, and I just don't know that they have it. Luck needs to be on their side a little bit, and they need to play very, 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 very well as far as understanding the margins, and that could happen. Jordan Goodwin helps a lot, like a guy who can get you an extra 3, 4, 5 offensive rebounds in the game, but. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say another thing about Booker, but honestly, we can shelve it for another conversation because, like you said, I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a lot more. Yeah, I understand being sensitive about it. That guy, a lot of us are hoping, is going to be a Suns lifer. It just means so much to the Suns fan base and will continue to mean so much to the Suns fan base, so I get it. Would be nice to see Mark Williams in Game 4. I'm sure it's not going to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe honestly, saving grace of this series.
Help. It would be a huge help.
One saving grace of this season in kind of a cruel twist is that it saved Matt Ishbia so much money in terms of like how much he might have to pay Colin Gillespie, Mark Williams, and Jordan Goodwin going forward. I still think like it would be fun to keep all 3 of those players, But I think the dollar total that it would take to keep all three of those players is so much less than it was a month ago. It's kind of comical.
Yeah, it's funny if you were to ask us to rank those three guys and who you want to keep the most, like in, I don't know, January compared to now, that conversation would have been dramatically
like
different.
a real quick hitter
It's
right
number
here.
one, Jordan Goodwin, right now. That's what I mean.
I still think it's probably Colin Gillespie for me, but I understand it being close 1 and 2 between those guys. I have a question for you, real quick hitter, and then we can get out.
Okay.
Just on Mark Williams, like if the foot thing just kind of is gonna be a problem, like that was what was initially flagged on his physicals anyway. You know, how many years would you offer Mark on an extension right now?
It's really,
anyway?
it's a great question, because if you find a way to make that it have 1 or 2 non-guaranteed years, I don't know what the rules are on like non-guaranteed years on a contract.
With
Mark.
early bird rights or something. I don't know if they
Yeah,
have his
just
early
in
bird
general.
rights,
I
actually.
don't know
They've
if you
only
could
had
do
1 year.
2 non-guaranteed years or something. Like, I don't know if that's allowed.
Yeah.
But it makes him a really interesting trade piece because if you could potentially trade him to a team and it essentially serves as an expiring contract or a player they could keep if they like him, that just makes him a little more valuable as a trade piece, especially because I doubt he's going to get a ton of money. What is like fair money for like a lower level starting center who doesn't play that much is kind of an interesting question to have, and we're going to have that going into the offseason. But yeah, it's just, yeah, we'll talk about that more later, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's I guess just like
We
the
can
way
get 20 minutes out of that in
the
like
way he was
June.
healthy, the way he was healthy throughout the vast majority of the season, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'd like this guy on a 3 or 4 year contract. And if we have to trade him at some point, you know, to make room for Malawach, then he'll have trade value. It'll be fine. Now I'm thinking to myself, like, that might be a 1 or 2 year contract extension that he gets, and he has to take or leave it. So, but yeah,
1
we'll
year
talk
with a
more about it.
non-guaranteed second year, I think is something that he might take.
Yeah.
You know?
So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Well, thanks everyone. Well, thanks you guys, the few of you who listened till the end here. We'll be back. I don't know. If they lose, we might take a week off. Who knows? We'll see what it's like. We'll see the temperature of the fan base after game 4. But either way, thank you guys for listening. And yeah, back soon.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50. So you can get your gym gains on. Or just get lunch. For only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.